Chapter 22. I can't tell you how weird it was going to school the next day, sitting in class, trying to pay attention while my teacher, Miss Paloma, talked about what led up to the Second World War. Maybe if the United States had been ready to fight earlier, she said, the war would have ended earlier and fewer people would have been killed. But our country wanted peace. I just kept looking at her and wondering, was that your skeleton draped across the desk? What was the point of going to school? What was the point of anything? I had seen the future. I knew how it all turned out. The human race was done for, finished. That was where all our long history led, to a yerk pool. Because we were so devoted to peace, we may have actually made the war worse, Miss Paloma droned on. We'll never know for sure, of course. You can't really second-guess history. You can if you're an elemist, I thought. If you're an elemist, you can look ahead and see it all. Why not? It was Cassie's voice. I glanced across the room at her. She had that same look of confusion I'd seen the day before. The frustrated look, like she sensed something she couldn't quite grasp yet. Why can't you second-guess history? I mean, if you could go back and change things so the U.S. was ready to fight earlier? Miss Paloma sat on the edge of her desk. Because the events are intertwined in ways we cannot always see, Cassie. Sometimes small things can make a huge difference. You know, they say that a single butterfly beating its wings in China may affect the way the wind blows here in our country. A single butterfly beating its wings may make a tiny change that becomes a bigger change, that becomes a tornado. The world isn't like math. It isn't just 1 + 1 = 2. It's more complicated than that. And then the oddest thing happened. Miss Paloma looked right at me, right into my eyes. Much more complicated than that, she said. A single butterfly. A single butterfly. A single butterfly. The hair on the back of my neck was tingling. Everyone was looking at her like she was crazy. Suddenly, Miss Paloma shook her head, like she was popping out of a trance. She smiled a confused smile. Okay, well, anyway, you all have the reading assignments. The bell rang and I practically jerked up out of my seat. Cassie threaded her way through the kids who were rushing out of the room. Okay, tell me that wasn't weird, Cassie whispered. I thought maybe I was imagining it, I said. Besides, who knows what's weird anymore? I'm sitting there waiting for the you-know-who to suddenly zap us out of here. Cassie nodded. So why hasn't he? Out on the fast-moving crush of bodies in the hall, we made our way to our lockers. I don't know, I said as I spun my combination lock. We decided to say yes. We're giving him what he wants. I popped my locker open. Unless, Cassie said, unless maybe that wasn't the answer he wanted, I finished her thought. But it's nuts, Cassie said, frowning. Everything he did made it look like he wanted us to say yes. He appears the first time right as we're about to be swallowed by it. She looked around to make sure no one could overhear. Just as we're about to be swallowed by a Texan. I mean, come on. Obviously, he must have figured we'd want to bail. We might have, I said. Except we saw that drop shaft, so we thought we could escape. Otherwise, I stopped talking. I stared at Cassie. She stared back. He showed us that drop shaft, Cassie said. Why? I wondered aloud. Why? What is he doing with us? He appears when we're desperate. He says he doesn't interfere and then gives us a choice. Then he lets us see a way out. What's that all about? He gives us another chance. He shows us the future. He shows us you, basically. You in the future. So we know for sure that we must have decided to stay and fight. And we know we lost. And all of that means we have to say yes and let him take us away. So why have I been feeling like I was missing something? The warning bell for next period rang. This is insane, as Marco would say. Cassie laughed. I mean, yeah, I have gym next period. At any moment, I might suddenly be swooped away to another planet, but in the meantime, I have to go play volleyball. I watched her walk away. Then I hurried to my next class. A single butterfly, I thought. But how is the butterfly supposed to know when to beat her wings? Chapter 23. I was back in the underground yerk pool, trapped, stuck to the taxon's tongue, but not a cockroach. I was myself in my human body, only tiny, stuck, about to die. Axe was talking. Yerk pool, it's the center of their lives, almost a religion. I squirmed and tried to get away. I tried to change into something else, the bear. I wanted to become the bear. But I was stuck. All I could do was beat my helpless butterfly wings. He showed us the drop shaft, Cassie's voice murmured in the back of my head. I swirled down dark corridors. I flew wildly on butterfly wings, always chasing a light that never drew closer and yet never disappeared. The Kandrona, I thought in my dream. The light is the Kandrona. The center of their lives, almost a religion. No, not the yerk pool, really. The Kandrona, that is the center for them. That is their light. He showed us the drop shaft, Cassie said. Only now she was Mrs. Paloma. My eyes snapped open. I sat up in my bed. I was awake as I'd ever been. I was electric. Ha ha! I yelled in the darkness of my room. Yes! And then I hesitated. Was I nuts? Was I just desperate? I ran through it all again. Got him, I whispered. Oh man, we got him. We got the disgusting worms. I shucked off the t-shirt that I wear to bed and quickly slipped into my morphing outfit. I threw open the window and then I paused. It would be Saturday morning in a few hours. No school, but if my mom found me gone, she might worry. I quickly scribbled a note saying I had gone for an early morning run, then I might go over to Cassie's afterward. And then I glanced at the picture at my desk. The one of 3-year-old me on the balance beam, being held by my proud father. I could not tell the others. We had already decided. We were going to say yes to the Ellimist. We would let him take us to a place where there would be no battles and no need to decide. If I told my friends what I suspected, I felt the weight come down on me again. The weight of uncertainty and guilt and fear. I looked at the picture of my dad and smiled. What would you think of me, Dad, if I walked away when I still had the chance to win? And then I morphed. My arms shrank. My skin began to flow into patterns of soft feathers that could rise silently on the night breeze. In a few more minutes, I was ready. The moon was bright in the sky. Dawn was still hours away. A perfect night for an owl. But I paid no attention to the juicy prey below me as I flew at top speed toward the woods. Tobias! It's me! Don't panic, but wake up. What the... Didn't I tell you about zooming up and... Come on, I yelled. Come on where? Don't argue, just come on. I know you don't like to fly at night, but just come on anyway. Rachel, have you lost your mind? Where are we going? We're going to be butterflies, Tobias. We're going to Cassie's barn, and then we're going to change history. He opened his wings and flew alongside me, just a few feet away. Whatever you say, Rachel, Tobias said grumpily, but what makes you think... I know where it is, Tobias, I interrupted him. Where what is? Tobias, I know the location of the Kandrona. Chapter 24. Okay, it's 3:47 in the morning, Marco said, and I'm here, thanks to the fact that my dad is a sound sleeper who doesn't notice when I wake up screaming because an owl and a hawk have just flown in through my window. So now maybe you can tell us why we're all here? Everyone was there in Cassie's barn. Jake looked sleepy but interested. Cassie was using the time to check on some of the sick animals. Axe just stood to one side, waiting to see what Jake told him to do. Tobias perched on an overhead beam, tired from having flown too much. We were lit by a single small bulb that never even touched the shadows in the corners of the barn. We didn't want to take the chance that Cassie's parents might notice a light on and come to investigate. Yes, I answered Marco. I'll tell you why you're here. I know where the Kandrona is. I know where it is. That got his attention, but he was still skeptical. What makes you think you know where the Kandrona is? The Elemist. He showed us. We all thought it was unfair when he appeared in the Yerk pool and asked us to decide when we were about to be eaten, right? I told you, Elemists care nothing about fairness, Axe said. No, you're wrong, Axe. At least this time. The Elemist appeared when we were about to be swallowed by the Taxon, and then he showed us the drop shaft. We saw the drop shaft because it was there, Jake argued. It wasn't about him showing it to us. Are you sure? I asked. He waited till we had walked out of the Yerk lunchroom to appear. He waited till we were standing where we were sure to notice the drop shaft. I saw Jake raise an eyebrow thoughtfully. He and Marco exchanged a look. What if we're wrong about the Elemist being unfair? What if Cassie's instinct is right, that he's telling the truth, that he's trying to do what's right? He tells us that in the future we lose the fight, that the human race is enslaved, that he has a way to save a small number of us by taking us to a safe place. And it's all true. If he's telling us the truth, that we lose in the future, what's this all about? Marco asked. We've seen that future. Nothing we do will matter. I shook my head. No, it will matter. If it didn't matter how we decided, why even bother to ask us what we wanted to do? See? It does matter what we do. Yes, Marco said. But the answer is obvious. We can only change the future by agreeing to the Elemist's plan to take us to a safe planet. Yes, that's one way. He offered us that. But when we finally accepted, he didn't act. He didn't take us instantly away. Why? Why, after we agreed, did he leave us here? Because he wanted a different answer, Cassie said, nodding at me and giving me a wink. That's what's been eating at me. What different answer? Marco asked. He's in a trap, Cassie said. The Elemist is trapped. He wants to save Earth, but he can't interfere directly. Supposedly, all he's allowed to do is offer to save a small number of us. But he knows that won't save Earth. It will only save a few humans, yes. But when he showed us visions of Earth, he wasn't talking about humans. He said Earth was a work of art. He wants to find a way to save it. Without interfering directly, I agreed. But what if we just happened to see another way? What if the Elemist showed us the future, trying to convince us to let him take us away, and we just happened to see a way out? What way out? Jake demanded. The Kandrona. He let us see where the Kandrona is, I said. That Yerk pool downtown, that's the key. Why build a Yerk pool downtown? Why level so many buildings to make room for it? Why leave the EGS tower still standing? And why is there a glass dome on top of the floors of the EGS? Axe is the one who said it. The Yerk pool is the center of their lives. That Yerk pool? I think it's a shrine. Almost a holy place to them. It's where they located the first Kandrona to be placed on planet Earth. Jake snapped his fingers. The EGS tower. That's what's under the dome on the top floors. The Kandrona. That's what the Elemist wanted us to see. Just the way he let us see the drop shaft we used to escape. He wasn't interfering. Technically. The choice is still ours. Marco laughed out loud. You mean maybe the Elemist is bending his own rules? So he can say, hey, I didn't interfere, but at the same time, he's putting us where we can figure it out? I can't believe it. The Elemist is a weasel. He found a loophole. I think I like that guy. But even if you're right about the Kandrona, Rachel, Jake argued, what does it prove? If we destroy it, are we sure it'll change the future? Cassie looked at me and smiled. Maybe yes, maybe no, she said, but things are connected in a millions of ways. They say a single butterfly beating its wings in China can start a tornado in America. Yes, Tobias said, but how does the butterfly know when to beat its wings? It doesn't, I said. I guess it beats its wings the best it can and hopes it'll all work out. It's a butterfly. It just does what butterflies do. And what do we do, Xena warrior princess? Marco asked mockingly, knowing the answer I would give. We kick your butt, I said with a grin.